right, so let's take a look at the problem of the day. Pause the video and answer it. Today we're going to add something actually to lesson 4.3. We're going to continue to factor, so it's called solve ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by factoring. So what happens now is we have a coefficient in front of the x squared. So let's look at it and use the example here with factor the special patterns. You see a, b, and c are different to two squares, d and e actually are as well. But there's a difference between them, right? The first group of them, we remember from the previous lesson, when it's a perfect square, 4 is what? 2 times 2? So we'd say x plus 2, x minus 2. So take a minute and solve each of these. It's going to lead us into what we're doing today. And you see each time I solve them, I sort of actually vary which one's first, the plus or the minus. Remember, it doesn't actually matter. As long as you take whatever the perfect square is, do one plus version, one minus version. Well, how does that apply to this one? Well, look at D and E. Now we have a coefficient in front of x squared. See how we have the letter A here? So it's not just going to be an x squared. Now both numbers are perfect squares. Make sure it's in below. So instead of just saying an x in each, we're going to say 3x minus 4, 3x plus 4. So now the 3 goes in each, 3x, and then minus 4 and plus 4. So that's the extra step to these. See if you could do the next one. It should be 5x minus 2, 5x plus 2. That's our answer. Now those are pretty easy, the difference of two squares. But now what happens when we have a coefficient here? And they're not perfect squares. Well, we have to take a look at all my factors now of 5 and of 6. So let's actually write them before I start anything. 6 is 6 times 1, 3 times 2. And 5 we have what? 5 times 1. So you're now adding an extra step to it. Let's start from the left. Before we put an x in each parenthesis, right? But now we have to add a coefficient. So 5, there's only one set of factors because it's a prime number. So we'll put 5x in one of them, and then 1x in the other, or x. So now it's just not simply an x. But I look at the plus sign. Signs are the same. I go here. They're both negative. So let's add a negative there to both of them. Now I have two options, and I have either 6 and 1, and 6 and 1 could go here, 6, 1, or 1, 6, and then I have 3 and 2, 3, 2, or 2, 3. Here's the part where you have to guess and check. You have to guess and check what's going to work, and as you try one, you can FOIL it out to see what works. We're going to find out that 2 and 3 are where they are at work the best. Now how can I check? I could do FOIL or check OI. FOIL, if you multiply out, should obviously tell you if you're right or wrong. Check FOIL. If you see here, I'm going to actually slide this over to see. If I don't need the F and L. If you want to do a shortcut, you could do check OI to see what happens. So let's see OI of FOIL. Outer, 5x times, maybe I should write a pen here, 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. And then inner is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1x is negative 2x. Negative 15x minus 2x is negative 17x. And does that match up here? Yep. And my handwriting's sloppy. So when you do a problem and you guess and check what works, you could check FOIL, F-O-I-L, or the shortcut is just OI of FOIL to find the middle one. I want you to do either or in order to get full credit. I want to see that your check works. So why don't you pause the video and take a shot at the next group. I'll do letter B with you. So for B, we have what? 7 and actually, maybe I should write these first. Okay. So we have, what are my factors? 7 times 1 and 3 times 1. So these are nice because they're prime numbers. We don't have a lot to sort of work with. Maybe we have enough to work with. So I'm going to put 7x in one parenthesis and 1x in the other. Now signs are different, so here's where it makes it a little bit harder. One's a plus, one's a minus. And we also have to see where the 3 and 1 go. So I'm going to pause the video and I want you to test it. Pick one. Put the 1 here, put the 3 here, put the positive 1, negative 3. Work it out, see if it works. Do the check OI of FOIL to determine. Should get positive 1 minus 3. In this order. And do your check OI of FOIL to make sure it works. I'll do it below here. So it's OI of FOIL. So if I do the outer 7x times negative 3 is negative 21x. Inner 1 times 1x is positive 1x. Negative 21x plus 1x is negative 20x. We are in fact, we get the middle term here. So that's my answer. So pause the video, try the next two. I want you to try them yourself before you actually solve them. Hopefully you've had some time to set these up. I'm going to give you the answers that you should have here for C and D. So make sure you can get these, make sure you do the check OI. I promise you the more you do them, the better you get at them and the faster you are. So it shouldn't be too difficult. Like the more I do, I sort of do the check OI in my head. Now, here's another set of examples. What about if we have a GCF? We want to factor out the GCF first. So if I look at A first, factor the expression, 6x squared minus 14x plus 8. 6 has what factors? 3 and 2, 1 and 6. 8 has 1 and 8, 2 and 4. But if you look, always ask yourself, do they have something in common? What they have in common is a 2. They're all divisible by 2. So let's factor out that 2, which means like dividing out a 2. And now what I'm going to factor, based off of the last couple, I have to factor this part. Pause the video and try yourself doing that check OI. Check OI is very, very critical. Check OI ensures that you get the right answer. And on a quiz or test, I'm going to ask you to show me the work because I don't want you just to pick any random number. I want you to make sure it actually works. B, we could factor out a 5 first. I'm left with x squared minus 9. And what's nice about this one when we go to factor, this one now is not even like in today's lesson where there's a coefficient for the x squared. It's a difference of 2 squares, but it's an easier one. So you should get x plus 3. Yep. And this is your final answer. Remember, at any time you could also multiply everything out. You could FOIL and then distribute, and you should get the same answers here. So one last slide here. We're going to add a step again, just like the other day. we're going to factor, but we were also going to find the zeros. So this one here, they have nothing in common to factor out. Always ask yourself about the GCF. It makes your life easier if you can factor something out. This one's actually a difference of 2 squares, and it's already set up equal to 0. So I should get 4x plus 5, 4x minus 5 equals 0. From here, I set them each equal to 0. Be careful. Whereas the last lesson, it was a one-step equation. What do I have? I have two-step equations right now. So 4x equals negative 5. Be careful when you're solving. There's really no shortcut. I mean, it's a two-step equation, not one. You can't tell me x equals negative 5 or positive 5. So I get negative 5/4. Or x equals 5/4. And then that's my final answer. So remember, the zero product property, we have to be equal to 0 before we can solve. And the next one, we have to transpose the negative 4 over to the left as a positive 4 before we solve. It has to be equal to 0 always. Now, guess and check what works out for factoring. Once again, please pause the video and do not, check, do the work first to check it with me. You're not going to learn anything if you just keep watching. Once again, it's a matter of just guessing and checking what works. Set them each equal to 0. And I waited to show the step on this one here because it was just a one step on the right here. So you get x equals negative 4/3, or x equals negative 1. Last one. Remember, you're doing that check y to make sure your factoring works. You don't want to just write whatever and hope for the best. When you solve it, feel you're okay. Try to do it on your own for this one. So you have -3/2 or -1. Those are my final answers. Now remember, to check your work here, you could also take your answers and one at a time plug them back into the original and make sure they check out. All right, so that's it for today. Here's your homework problem of the day. In number 2, I want you to factor the expressions, and then 3, I want you to solve the equations and find the roots.